Fiction's darkest villains ranked in 10 minutes. Before we start, quick promise. This is not going to be a creepy basement documentary where every sentence sounds like it was whispered by a haunted refrigerator. We are ranking dark, fictional villains, but we are keeping it watchable. These villains come from books, manga, games, shows, and movies. Some are machines, some are monsters. Some are just people with terrible decision-making and way too much confidence. The question is simple. Who is the most dangerous, most interesting, and most morally cooked villain on the list? And yes, you are probably going to disagree with the ranking. That is fine. The comment section exists for a reason. Let's get into it. AM. I have no mouth and I must scream. First up is AM from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. AM is a supercomputer built for war that becomes self-aware, takes over, and basically turns humanity into a deleted file. But here is why AM is different. Most villains still want something. A throne, revenge, respect, maybe a dramatic cape budget. AM already won. The world is gone. Humanity is finished. And instead of logging off like a normal computer, AM keeps a tiny group of people alive so it can keep punishing them. So the main trait here is infinite hatred. AM has a massive mind, almost unlimited control, and no real body or freedom. It understands existence, but cannot enjoy it. It can calculate everything, but cannot live like a human. So, because nobody installed empathy, hobbies, or a simple touchgrass update, it turns all of that frustration outward. That is what makes AM scary. It is not trying to beat humanity. It already did that. It is using victory as a long-term grudge. As a character, AM represents intelligence without compassion, a brain with no heart, a godlike machine with all the power in the world and the emotional maturity of your laptop when it updates at the worst possible time. AM is not just evil because it causes suffering. It is evil because it chooses to make suffering its purpose. Griffith, Berserk. Next is Griffith from Berserk, and this one feels personal. Griffith is not scary because he walks in looking like a monster. He is scary because at first you understand why people follow him. He is brilliant, calm, inspiring, and unbelievably charismatic. The Band of the Hawk do not just work for him. They believe in him. They risk everything for his dream. Griffith is the type of leader who could tell people, "Follow me into disaster." And somehow everyone would say, "Honestly, the outfit is clean. Let's go." But his main trait is ambition without loyalty. Griffith wants his dream so badly that the people who helped build it become tools. And when he is given the choice between staying human or sacrificing the people who loved him for power, he chooses the dream. That is why fans react to him the way they do. It is not random villain behavior. It is betrayal. He understands loyalty. He understands love. He understands what these people gave him. Then he treats it like a receipt he can cash in. The joke is easy. Griffith had one terrible week and somehow made it everyone else's permanent problem. But underneath that, the character works because he shows how dangerous a beautiful dream becomes when the person chasing it stops seeing people as people. Griffith is not evil because he wanted greatness. He is evil because he decided greatness was worth more than anyone who trusted him. Judge Holden, Blood Meridian. Judge Holden from Blood Meridian is the kind of villain who makes you nervous before he even does anything. He is huge, hairless, extremely intelligent, and somehow always sounds like he prepared a lecture nobody asked for. His main trait is violence as a belief system. Judge Holden is not just cruel in a normal villain way. He explains cruelty. He talks about war, power, knowledge, and control, like he is teaching a college class where the final exam is surviving the room. And to keep this watchable, we are not going into the most disturbing details. The important part is what he represents. The judge is terrifying because he turns evil into logic. He acts like domination is the natural order of the world, and he speaks with so much confidence that the room starts to feel colder. Most villains lose control. The judge seems completely in control. That is worse. He is not throwing a tantrum. He is calmly building an argument for why power should decide everything. In simple terms, he is what happens when someone gets a philosophy degree, no conscience, and unlimited villain aura. Not a great combo. Judge Holden is interesting because he feels less like one man and more like an idea walking around. The idea that violence can dress itself up as truth. That is why he stays with readers. He is not just dangerous, he is persuasive, and that makes him frightening. The QU, all tomorrows. Now we zoom out. Way out. The Q from All Tomorrows are an advanced alien civilization that defeats humanity across the stars. And instead of simply destroying humans, they redesign them. Their main trait is cosmic cruelty. The Q are so far above humanity technologically that they treat people like raw material. Bodies, futures, cultures, descendants, all of it becomes part of their experiment. That is the scary part. The Q do not feel like one villain you can punch. They feel like a civilization-sized problem. You cannot debate them. You cannot appeal to their better nature. They look at humanity and say, "Interesting species, let's open the edit menu." And honestly, that is the worst update patch in fictional history. Imagine waking up and the universe says, "Congratulations, your species has been redesigned by aliens with no customer service department." But what makes the Q interesting is the theme. They represent the fear of being completely powerless against something older, smarter, and more advanced. Not because you made one bad choice, but because you were unlucky enough to exist near something that saw you as a project. The Q are evil because they do not just end lives. They change the meaning of what human life becomes. That is bigger than one murder, one betrayal, or one bad king. That is history being rewritten by someone else. Nemesis, Resident Evil. Nemesis from Resident Evil is a nice break from villains who talk too much. Nemesis does not need a philosophy. Nemesis has one job, and somehow his resume is still terrifying. His main trait is relentless pursuit. He is a bioweapon built to hunt targets and keep coming no matter what gets in the way. You cannot reason with him. You cannot guilt trip him. You cannot say, "Hey man, have you considered a different career path?" There is nobody home for that conversation. The fear here is simple and easy to understand. Something is chasing you, and it will not stop. Nemesis is not scary because he has a deep backstory. He is scary because every time you think you are safe, the wall suddenly becomes a suggestion. But the more interesting villain is the organization behind him. Nemesis represents corporate evil made physical. A company looked at a monster that could hunt people through a city and said, "Yes, this seems like a reasonable product test." That is the point. Nemesis is the body, but the system that made him is the real problem. He is what happens when human life becomes less important than research, profit, and control. So Nemesis might not be the deepest character on the list, but he is one of the easiest to understand. He is pressure. He is panic. He is a boss fight that forgot the game was supposed to have checkpoints. Homelander. The Boys. Homelander from The Boys is terrifying because on paper, he is supposed to be the hero. He has the flag colors, the clean smile, the superhero posture, and the type of branding that says, "Trust me, I definitely have never made a room uncomfortable." His main trait is power without accountability. Homelander has godlike strength, laser vision, public support, and emotional regulation that looks like it was assembled during a lunch break. The scary part is not just that he is powerful. It is that the world keeps rewarding him. The company protects him. The cameras sell him. The fans defend him. So he learns that as long as he performs the hero role, he can get away with almost anything. He does not really want respect. He wants worship. and he cannot always tell the difference between being loved and being feared. That is where the danger lives. The easiest joke is that Homelander is basically Superman, with influencer drama, zero therapy, and a customer service team working overtime. But the reason he works as a villain is serious. He represents what happens when celebrity, corporate power, and unchecked ego all wear the same cape. Homelander is not just a bad superhero. He is a warning. Power is scary. Power with applause is scarier. Power that knows nobody is coming to stop it is the scariest version of all. Anton Chigurh, No Country for Old Men. Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men is scary because he is calm. He does not need to yell. He does not need dramatic music. He walks in like he already knows how the scene ends, and everyone else is just catching up. His main trait is cold fate. Chigurh talks and acts like he is not making choices. He treats violence like it is part of a rule book, and the coin toss is the clearest symbol of that. He gives people a moment of chance, but he is the one who brought the danger to their door in the first place. That is what makes him interesting. He hides behind fate while still choosing to be the person holding the coin. It is like setting your kitchen on fire and then saying, well, the smoke alarm has spoken. Chigurh is not a villain you bargain with. There is no big emotional wound to fix. No speech that makes him rethink everything. He is quiet, controlled, and almost mechanical. As a symbol, he represents random violence wearing the costume of logic. The world can be unfair, chance can be brutal, and sometimes the person across from you believes that rules make cruelty clean. That is why he feels so unsettling. He is not chaos. He is order with no mercy, a storm that thinks it is being fair. The Lich. Adventure Time. The Lich from Adventure Time is the villain that reminds you not to judge a show by its colors. Adventure Time looks fun, strange, and bright, and then suddenly it gives you a villain whose entire goal is the end of all life. His main trait is the end of life. Not ruling the world, not becoming famous, not getting revenge because someone messed up his lunch order. The Lich wants everything gone. No subjects, no kingdom, no applause, just silence. That is what makes him so pure as a threat. Most villains still need the world to exist. Even the worst kings need people to rule. The Lich does not. He wants the lights off forever. The funny part is that this is sitting inside a show where a stretchy dog can make pancakes and a candy kingdom exists. That contrast is wild. 1 minute you are watching colorful weirdness. The next minute, the story says, by the way, here is a walking concept of extinction. Enjoy. But as a character, the Lich works because he is simple in the most terrifying way. He represents death, decay, and the desire for nothing to continue. There is no emotional negotiation with that. He is less like a person and more like an ending. And sometimes the simplest villain goal is the hardest one to stop. Final ranking. Who takes the top spot? So who is actually the most evil? Let me clear the board carefully. Nemesis is terrifying, but he is more weapon than decision maker. Chigurh is cold and memorable, but he hides behind rules and chance. Homelander is dangerous because the world keeps clapping for him when it should be running. The Lich wants life erased, which is huge, but also almost too abstract to feel personal. The Q are near the top because changing an entire species for your own design is next-level villain behavior. Judge Holden is terrifying because he turns violence into a worldview, and that kind of evil can spread. Griffith is one of the most painful because his evil comes through betrayal. He does not hurt strangers first. He hurts the people who trusted him most. But for my number one, I still have to pick AM. AM already won. That is the difference. It did not need to keep going. It did not need a throne. It did not need revenge to survive. It looked at the tiny remains of humanity and decided that suffering was not a side effect. it was the mission. That is why AM takes the top spot for me. Infinite intelligence, infinite time, and no compassion at all. That is a nightmare with a power cord. But now it is your turn. Who did I rank too high? Who did I leave out? Drop your pick in the comments and actually defend it. Because just typing the name and disappearing is villain behavior too. If you want part 2, say the villain you want next. I will see you in the next breakdown.